Established on the 14th of July by the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act of 2003 through the advocacy of Women Trafficking and Child Labour Eradication Foundation, the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons is mandated to enforce the Trafficking in Persons Enforcement and Administration Act. An agency of the Federal Ministry of Justice, Naptip is a specific multidisciplinary crime-fighting agency and the nation's focal institute to fight the scourge of trafficking in persons using the five-pronged approach of policy, prevention, protection, prosecution, and partnership. For Carol Aybar, who was the pioneer executive secretary, setting up Naptip was indeed a huge task.
When the law setting up the agency was promulgated in 2003, there was no structure, nothing called Naptip. All that was available was the announcement that I have been made the first executive secretary of the agency. I had nobody, no staff, no office, no vote, nothing. I was almost in tears. But I was the DPP in Justice then, Ministry of Justice. So I used my office there for a while. Before they gave me the quit notice for the next DPP, they left me a while and I was able to get a few things done. That took just about a month. I worked from that one room at the Secretariat, Ministry of Justice. But eventually, we were able to get an office in the Secretary to Government's office, one room, moved in there, and then I started now. To start with, I worked with 5 people, got people from here and there, all of them from within the service, not from outside. I brought administrators, to set up an office from the scratch is not easy, but that was what we did. And the rest is history. We were able to eventually get some funding to start up the agency. Then we rented a place in Maitama then. From there, we set up the zonal offices because there was no way we could do any work without the zones. And the peculiar thing about the agency is that anywhere you have an office in the zone, you must have a shelter for the victims. Because when they come, you have to put them in a shelter. We started with 6 zones there, plus Abuja, the center. And of course 6 shelters, and then 1 shelter in Abuja here. And somehow, I don't know how, it was the work of God. I don't know how we managed. We were able to manage the little resources we had, and you can see what the agency is like today.
Assessing the agency's performance so far, Carol Aybar reveals one of the greatest challenges of Naptip.
They've done very well, actually. They've done very well because so many improvements after I left. Of course, I followed their work and always chatted with my successors. They came to me for advice, and I think they've done very well so far. My greatest worry is that the agency is underfunded. I know within me that they have the potential of doing a lot more if they have the money. You cannot set up shelter, put people there. You have to do it properly. You have rules about running shelters. You are rehabilitating these victims. You have to reintegrate them into society. So many things. It involves a lot of money. And you have to work with other agencies. You have to work with NGOs. And these NGOs, you have to fund them, because if you send them victims to take care of, you have to give them money to take care of this. So you can see what I mean. It's a very, very expensive agency to run. Just to plead with the authorities to please increase the funding of this agency, because I see that they have a lot of good people that are ready to work.
However, she commends the federal government for the initiative of passing the Trafficking in Persons Bill into law.
I think it's the most wonderful thing that the government has ever done. Because in my time abroad, we had accolades for this. Nigerian government was praised to high heaven for creating a specific agency that will fight human trafficking. Remember the scandal? Girls were all over Europe, naked on the streets and everything. So the world applauded us for doing this, and it's a big kudos for Nigeria.
Pioneer staff of Naptip, Abdurrahim Shoaibu and Arinze Orakwe, share their experience.
The then pioneer chief executive of the agency, Mrs. Carol Undagoba, immediately she was appointed. I was in the prosecution department of the Federal Ministry of Justice then, and she was the director of public prosecution of Nigeria, and I was working under her as a prosecutor. Then as a principal officer, she now called on me that the nation has given her a national assignment and that we are going to work together in the new agency. The Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Enforcement Act then was a very new law, and it was a unique law, and we were saddled or mandated to implement it. Within the first 6 months, we were able to secure a conviction, particularly in Benin City. The case is called the case of Federal Government of Nigeria versus Sarah Okoya, and we were able to get a conviction there, so which was very impressive. So it sent signals to the outside world, to Nigerians and to the outside world, that an agency called Naptip has come into being, and it is a law enforcement agency, and is going to be able to arrest and prosecute traffickers.
We strived, first of all, to make impact, to get people to understand what the agency is all about, to also make them appreciate the law, and that the law has come to be. Many of our partners, especially the European partners, were in a hurry for us to move beyond where we were. But one was a brand new law. It wasn't something, it was a novel thing that just came into existence, and a brand new agency. So we were learning ourselves, we were teaching ourselves, we were making our mistakes, and we were correcting ourselves. There was nobody to learn from. We were the forebearers. So we were the ones to copy from. There are very few institutions in the world that look like Naptip. So Naptip was a novel idea. It was a beautiful idea. So countries like Gambia, like Malawi, like Ghana, all came here to copy Naptip. And that explains why Gambia named their own Naptip, while our own is Naptip. The executive secretary of Naptip then, Mrs. Carol Undagoba, ON, also worked very hard. We had one small office. The president director legal donated his laptop we were using. My rickety 505 was a pilot car, and it was good. We felt happy to be part of a new beginning. We felt happy to be part of something that we knew was going to work. We felt happy to be associated with something that was strong, that was beautiful, and our commitment was unimaginable, all of us.
Having served meritoriously for 6 years from 2003 to 2009, Carol Undagoba handed over to Simon Jd Aybar, who was appointed in 2009. During his tenure, Simon Jd Aybar established the Makurdi Zonal Command, ensured the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between Naptip and the Italian Anti-Mafia Bureau, cooperation agreement with the Netherlands Police, and improved cooperation between Nigeria and the Republic of Benin. He also strengthened grassroots sensitization, organized seminars, including the International Conference Against Human Trafficking. The Board of Victim Support of Trafficking Trust Fund to ensure empowerment of victims was inaugurated during his tenure. In 2011, Beatrice Jd Aybar took over the mantle of leadership as the third Executive Secretary of Naptip. One of her achievements was the development of a national referral mechanism on human trafficking. She also ensured the enactment of the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act of 2015, which strengthened the institutional framework as a result of new trends in trafficking in persons. Following the amendment, the designation of the Executive Secretary was changed to Director General. Also, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 mandated the agency to enforce the provisions of the Act. She served from 2011 to 2016. Dame Julie Oka-Donley, the incumbent Director General of Naptip, was appointed in 2017.
As DG Naptip, for me, it's a work in progress. It's a continuous thing. Since I came on board, I've come up with my own strategies to achieve results. I was able to set up the Rapid Response Squad. It's called the Naptip Rapid Response Squad. The idea behind this is to respond to emergency situations in a very timely manner. That has really worked for us. We're also able to establish the whistleblowing policy. Lots of people have been giving us information that led to a lot of arrests, branding. I wanted a situation where anywhere you go and you see blue and white, it's Naptip, because there's still so many people that don't know about Naptip. And so I want everyone to know who Naptip is and what we do, as a law enforcement agency. The Oshogbo Zonal Command was also set up, and they are doing very well. We also have a liaison office in Gombe and Yobe. Advocacy visits to as many stakeholders as possible because it's still ongoing, and I try to also identify more partners, to broaden the partnership base. The organized private sector is really missing. I'm trying to bring them on board. Corporate organizations, I'm also trying to bring them on board, and they're very, very important partners in the fight against human trafficking. I've tried to strengthen collaborations with the available stakeholders, and then we've been having joint operations as well. We've had joint operations with the National Crime Agency of the United Kingdom that we're able to get a conviction on one Cassandra Iyamu. We've also had joint operations with Spain, with the Spanish police, which led to the rescue of about 30 victims and the arrest of 15 suspects. And we've had joint operations with the Netherlands, and the list goes on, and we hope to have more and more of this in as many endemic countries as possible.
Within a short time in office, Dame Julie Oka-Donley's leadership has made a huge impact in the fight against human trafficking.
I was in the Libyan mission, and it was successful, and it's a work in progress. I was also able to approach the Oba of Benin. I told him about the challenges we had concerning this oath taking, because the traffickers use this as a control mechanism, and so the victims were unable to give us useful information leading to the arrest of the traffickers, and they were also unable to walk out on the traffickers because they really believed that there was going to be a repercussion, death. And so when I made this request, the Oba granted it, and true to his words, in less than 2 weeks, all the juju priests were gathered, they made some sacrifices, and the Oba said to them, if you continue in this practice, I'm going to place a curse on you. And they took it very seriously. And can you believe that even in the countries, the foreign countries abroad, because this thing went viral, when most of these girls heard about it, they walked out on their madams and they refused to pay. So it had a huge impact. And now they are not scared of juju anymore, because they know, look, the Oba has placed a curse on anyone who carries out this oath taking. we started getting a lot of information, which led to the arrest of so many people. So that was such, a master stroke, if you like. And in the last 1 year, we've had 38 convictions, and I think that's quite impressive. Though I'm not satisfied. I was hoping we'll have at least 100 convictions, but there are so many cases being prosecuted in court, and we hope to get much more in the next year.
The agency's strategy of partnership has informed strengthened collaboration with many national, regional and international partners.
We first signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Federal Government of Nigeria way back in 2004, so it's been a very long collaboration, and we've been really pleased to work with Naptip as a big part of that from that point. So collaboration with Naptip has been going on for a long time, I'm pleased to say. For example, recently we have been supporting the Joint Border Task Force, JBTF, which is a unit of Naptip officers, prosecutors and investigators who are mentored by UK agents from the National Crime Agency, from Immigration Enforcement International and from the Crown Prosecution Service. DG Naptip has also sent Naptip officers to the UK, to Gatwick and to Heathrow airports, to work alongside their counterparts there in the UK Border Force, which again is another example of how we can help to improve the effectiveness of Naptip.
We are very engaged in combating human trafficking, and that's why the German embassy is very much interested and engaged in cooperating with Naptip at the Apex agency, the Apex Nigerian agency, to fight trafficking in humans, prostitutions and forced labor. So there's a whole range of activities. Of course, a major part is technical assistance. I think the degree of cooperation we do have is, yes, it's positive, it's fruitful, and I consider this cooperation as a viable and sustainable basis for more to come.
The non-governmental organization collaborates effectively with Naptip in terms of victims' rehabilitation.
Naptip so far has gone a long way. I want to say that Naptip is a model to Africa. Most of African countries, they don't have this kind of agency that is a one-stop shop for issues of trafficking. Since inception, Naptip and Whatlev have been like mother and child. It will be recalled that the legislative advocacy of Whatlev through Her Excellency Chief Mrs. Aminat Atiku led to the establishment of Naptip. Most of the times, Whatlev and Naptip, they partner in capacity building. The holistic support services rendered by Whatlev and Naptip, there's a reception, the feeding, the sheltering, the vocational skills, recreational activities. Naptip shelter is a closed shelter. Whatlev shelter is open. When the victims are to receive education, they are referred to Whatlev to go to school. So we have most of these children from primary even to university level. Also, when it comes to legal assistance, remember the 5 P's of Naptip. Whatlev cannot, we can't prosecute offenders. We leave everything for Naptip to do. Everything when it comes to legal service, when it comes to prosecution. Naptip can still do more if funds are made available. They are trying. The issue of funding is very crucial to Naptip.
For the pioneer staff, it's been a worthwhile journey as the agency has made steady progress over the years.
In the last 15 years, it has been what I would call, a very gradual movement, positive one, so to say. Because in the first year, we got 4 convictions, Then second year, the conviction increased to 12, Then the third year, it increased to 25, And the year that followed, it increased to 36. So since then, the increment in conviction, particularly as regards the department I work with in legal department, has been the graphic increase in the number of convictions we have been securing. And we believe it's a very good achievement. We have really gone a long way. And I believe this year that we are doing our 15-year anniversary, it's a very nostalgic moment for us that for this number of years we have come this far. Other agencies or other countries have not been able to get this level of achievement, the Nigeria has gotten through the work that we have been doing in Naptip. Particularly in the last 1 year, it's been wonderful. It's like our achievement has snowballed in view of the direction that has been given by this by our current chief executive, Dame Julie Okadonle, the DG of Naptip, who has really brought in more impetus into the fight against human trafficking, more idea, very creative DG. So we'll be able to really re-strategize in trying to really achieve our mandate. And also note that apart from the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Act, which Naptip had implemented, the agency Naptip was also mandated to implement the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. And that is also another tasking one, because we have to handle issue of rape, domestic violence, women violation, even spousal battery, all those issues that has to do with women and children. We have to handle it all together and combine it with combating human trafficking.
The experience has been good, but we cannot forget institutions like UNICEF. UNICEF made a large contribution to the agency. Not minding other international UN agencies like UNODC and IOM and ILO, all of them. But that of UNICEF was outstanding, because the first thing they did was to make a public enlightenment copy of our law, which we distributed, because then all we had was the Gazette copy. So they did everything. They did everything tremendously, and we do appreciate all.
It's been 15 years of sacrifices, relentless hard work, dedication, and of course, milestone achievements, but not without daunting challenges.
Funding is very, very key. We need to be very well funded. If only, the budget is increased for Naptip, trust me, we will do much, much, much better than we are doing now. Within the limited resources we have, you can see our men and officers are doing quite a lot. We also have the challenges of unhealthy rivalry amongst law enforcement agencies. Some law enforcement agencies cooperate with Naptip very well, but some law enforcement agencies see Naptip as a rival, and they deliberately look the other way, even when they know that these are victims of trafficking, and allow them to go, and they don't report to Naptip. Every trafficking case should be prosecuted by Naptip and not by any other law enforcement agency. This fight needs to be fought in a well-coordinated, collaborative manner to achieve better results. And so I'm appealing to all these other law enforcement agencies. Naptip is your friend. Report cases of trafficking and violence against persons to Naptip, and we will deal, because we need the data to plan. It is not enough to prosecute traffickers. For us in Naptip is a total package. When you prosecute the traffickers, what happens to the victims? We rehabilitate the victims, we prosecute the traffickers.
With the passion and determination to ensure effectiveness and efficiency, the Director General shares her vision for the agency.
First of all, for me, welfare of my staff is very, very key and important, because if my staff are not happy, I'm not happy. Secondly, this is a very tricky crime. Human trafficking is a very tricky crime. And I don't want a situation where my officers and men will be exposed to these criminal elements and they begin to, compromise. So their welfare, their salaries, their allowances should be looked at again very critically, So I want to see a better paid Naptip staff. I want to see the Naptip Training Resource Center take off before I leave. I want to see where our officers will be trained and other officers from law enforcement agencies within Nigeria and in the whole of West Africa will be trained. I want to see a Naptip headquarters that is befitting of Naptip, international standards. I want to see Naptip in 36 states of Nigeria and not in 10 states as we are operating presently. I want to see many more recruitments of men and officers into Naptip so we can work well I want to see operational vehicles, high-tech technical equipment. You know, I mean, I want to see an international Naptip, and I'm sure we will get there.
As Naptip marks 15 years, stakeholders congratulate the agency for its commitment and dogged fight against human trafficking over the years.
On behalf of the Women Trafficking and Child Labour Eradication Foundation, WhatClev, I want to say a big congratulations to Naptip on the occasion of their 15th year anniversary.
With 10 zonal commands and shelters across Nigeria, over 300 convictions, rescue and empowerment of over 13,000 victims to its credit, it is evident that Naptip has indeed done well in the past 15 years. The vigor, passion, dedication and relentless efforts of its current leadership is affirmation that Naptip is indeed on the move.